Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a little bit of a VeVe OMI update video. Guys, if you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I love y'all. Everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. Commenting, liking, subscribing is a free way to help support the channel. Non-free ways are Patreon. Smash that super thanks button down below. And super thanks as well. Anyway, there was a question on the OMI is my homie show tonight. And if you saw the OMI homie show in its entirety, this is really not going to be a new video. You could feel free to skip if you want. One of the super chats was from Devo Kyle, and he was saying, if you had to sell all of your DEVVE or all of your OMI right now, what would you do? And it's like, oh God, I don't. That's a horrible question. I would never. But if I had to, and I want to bring this up. This is not necessarily just from an ROI point. There's a lot of reasons why people do things, and this is, you know, the video of the history of OMI is my homie. When we're younger, when we're kids, well, not kid, well, yeah, when we're younger, usually I think people don't forget, their first person they were intimate with. And I remember mine. And usually when that happens, if you're each other's first, you kind of always go back to your first, at least for a couple decades for me. There is something similar with crypto, where, yeah, you could kind of play in with, oh yeah, I bought a little bit of Doge first, I bought a little Bitcoin, that's the main one. But the first one you really go all in with. And for me, that was OMI. And so I have that part of that reasoning going into there. If we do a multivariate analysis on this, on why I would keep my OMI as opposed to my DEVVE, is because I don't like to sell things at a loss. And if I were to sell the OMI now, it would be at like a $500,000 loss plus 550, whatever. And I am not okay with that. So I just wouldn't do it. Whereas if I sold DEVVE right now, it'd be a little bit of a loss. Maybe, I don't even know. Probably a little bit of a loss, but not a lot. So I'd be like, okay, that's fine. If you go just with ROI and take nothing else in, like Rain said, OMI is a little bit safer right now. And OMI, in my opinion, I think it could do 100x, and I think Rain would agree with me. Go to 3-ish cents, probably more. But to do 1,000x plus, I just don't think OMI is going to do that, where DEVVE has, I think, a much greater chance of doing that than OMI does. And then that got us to the scenario of just like, well, what about, other people that have been here and sold? Back on the Around the Metaverse show that we used to do, the guy that kind of put that together was Jordan Riz, and he was an example that someone had brought up, and he happened to sell. And this also, I want to bring that up into why there was a need for OMI as my homie. So it was around the metaverse, and we talked about OMI a lot because that's one of the tokens that's attached to a very legitimate company that does a lot of money every single month. Great fan base. That's the one that, hey, this is probably safe. Give it X amount of years, it's probably going to go crazy at some point. But then the host of that show, it kind of became almost like an OMI FUD space. Me and Rain were kind of fighting with other people, be like, listen, I know that you said hey, waiting for OMI to do something, it's not doing anything, so I'm going to chase other stuff. We understand that that's other people's concept, and I don't know 100% the reason why Jordan sold. It could have been that, could have been other reasons. You have to ask him for that. I don't know. But we just felt that set a bad precedent of just yeah, we're doing this, so we're selling, so it's okay to sell, and that's just not the message that we wanted to portray. And the message that we wanted to portray at the start, and how OMI Homie formed, is that a lot of people were just getting punished by the bear market, and they got tired of losing, and they're tired of seeing my portfolio go down, so I'm going to sell. So this way, one, they lock in the losses they already had, but they don't see any further losses. And it's okay, you can do that and lock in those losses, but you're never going to get those gains when the bull market hits. And now we're at a point where the bull market is hitting. We're in phase 3 right now. Phase 4 is blow off top for alts. So hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll see. It could extend out further than that, 8 months, whatever. But you saw everyone and their sister talk about selling and how crypto's bad and OMI's bad and VeVe's bad. And it's like, Doc brought up a photo of a sea of people. And it might be in his highlights. I'll try to find it. Dr. Stuff does not have highlights on his stuff. He really should. Actually, I found it. Here it is. In 2023, it said VeVe, OMI, fudders. And then it's, it's Doc saying, yes, you're all wrong. And for me, it's not hard. But for a lot of people, it's hard when everyone and their sister's telling you that you're wrong and you're right. I won't bore you with my story. Like I've been experiencing that literally from the time I was like a preteen. People tell me I'm wrong about stuff, and I always prove them wrong. But we wanted to go in and have this show because a lot of other people that were fudding and saying like something was trash when it wasn't. It's like, okay, you can say that. That's your right as if you're American. Some people were European, whatever. But in America we have free speech. Flag back there. You can say whatever you want. But that doesn't mean you're correct. And unfortunately, if you say something enough, you say it loudly enough with enough conviction, people will start to believe you. And it's like there's I forget who said the quote of never underestimate a stupid people at large. And just a lot of the people that were fudding, it just didn't generally have a track of success. They've never, either they've had like a one-off thing maybe, or they just never had that. And it's like, okay, you're saying this, but you've never been correct in finance. You don't have a good track history or track record of it. Where Crypto Rain's been in crypto for 8 years, and his bags are a lot heavier than mine. Why? Because he's older and a bit smarter and just more successful than me in crypto. In crypto, you make those crazy gains. Dr. Stuff, another exceedingly successful man, and me, and depends how you define success, but if we'll just talk monetary real quick, from high-risk lending to Pokemon cards to Tesla, to buying pieces of other companies and stuff, yes, I've been very successful in that as well. So we felt that it was necessary to have this show where people can view three successful men talk logically about things and not react with emotion. There are always people, you have a bunch of these examples throughout history. Something happens, say in the US, Congress has a knee-jerk reaction and they're acting all emotional. You see that in relationships, when one party will be like, oh, well, they have this trigger where, and it happens with both sexes, where let's say like a man that's been treated wrong by women his entire life, or a woman been treated wrong in all of her relationships, from the time she was a teenager, something that shouldn't trigger them, often does. And you have to understand, if you have the proclivity to feel a certain negative emotion intensely, you're going to have that proclivity to experience all negative emotions intensely. And a lot of fudders, it seems to me that the psychology, the makeup of them is that they've been either treated wrongly in the past, or they just have a negative mindset, and misery loves company. And you even saw it in 2023, 2024. There were spaces on X, FUD spaces, and they had like 50 people in them. The FUD spaces on VeVe were bigger than like the positive spaces on like other projects. It was insane. And again, that misery loves company, and a lot of people that can't get success in a certain type of way, whether it be on YouTube or having their posts trying to talk about what they specialize in, because they don't specialize in anything. The only way they get attention, they get a little bit of clout, is by being negative, because every now and then you do get people like me or Rain or Doc or someone with a little bit more status be like, hey, you're wrong because X, Y, and Z. And then they think, oh yeah, I debate, Crypto Rain on this, and I told Dr. Stuff what's what. It's like, well, you said something, but But like, no, you didn't. Like, you clearly lost that debate. And a lot of times people go in and they have this, when you don't have a, what's that called? When you run out of good arguments, you go to insults and you go to blows, and you like, that's what the people with the lesser arguments want to do. And that's what you've seen with the fudders. But now there seem to be a lot of people that it's not necessarily cool to FUD anymore, because you've seen the turn of the tide. Like, that pendulum is definitely swinging back in the other direction, and this is what we wanted people to see. In my life, I have consumed, I think, incredible content, literature, anime, manga, whatever, and in the last 25 plus years of me watching that stuff, they are replete with characters that let opportunities pass them by. And what I tend to preach, either on my shows, in person, clients, friends, family, whatever, is to learn from the tenets of those lessons and say, like, hey, we have an opportunity here. I've done this my entire life. I just went all in like Greg Louganis, jumped right in, and I said, I know this is the right idea because of X, Y, and Z. Conviction means nothing without logic. And I went all in on a couple of projects, and again, hasn't failed me yet. If I ever go all in a project and it goes to zero, that'll be the first time. So hopefully now, as things start to move forward a little bit, Doc and Rain's channels grow incredibly quickly, incredibly fast, and we all have this, we have a plan to do a lot more streaming together than just what we do on Tuesdays. It's been fun having y'all here for the last few years. I hope you join me for the next few years, because we're gonna have a rockin' good time. And if you get that reference, you comment down below. I wanna give you something. Anyway, it's New York Comic Con soon. I hope y'all are getting this bread. I love y'all. I'll catch you later. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. We love you. Do you ever feel like